Hello, YouTube land. How is everybody doing today? Well, are you ready for another fireside chat? So pull up a log, break out the s'mores, get your favorite drink, and let's get started. This story took place in May of 1982 up in Ketchikan, Alaska. My best friend and his brother and I, all three of us had a job working on a purse seiner net boat. Commercial fishing for salmon. My best friend and I had rode our 10 speeds from the Portland metropolitan area all the way up into Ketchikan, but I will save that for another fireside chat. We had been up there for a couple weeks getting the fishing boat ready for salmon fishing season, and well, we didn't have anything to eat other than peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I don't like peanut butter and jelly, so I wasn't enjoying it too much. So we all decided to fish the commercial halibut fishing season to make some extra money to buy some food. But of course we didn't have the equipment to do that, so we talked to our skipper who had hired us for the salmon season if he was interested in fishing the halibut season. And he was all in. Of course, being that all the equipment was his, he would get more shares than us, but we were fine with that. So we had two boats, a 21-foot skiff boat and a 24-foot skiff boat. And this is what we were going to go out in the ocean in. Now, I know you're probably thinking, wow, that's really crazy. And it was, actually, as it wound up. But the oceans up there in Ketchikan, up in that area of Alaska, there's so many little islands and stuff around. You feel like you're just on a big lake rather than out in open ocean waters. So the plan was the 24-foot skiff boat, we mounted a big round spool full of rope that we could use to set out our skate lines to catch the halibut. And then the 21-foot skiff boat, we used that one to go fishing to catch bait. And that was the boat I was on. So I got to go fishing to catch bottom fish and use that for bait. And people, I'm telling you, the fish that we were catching, I would have been happy to bring home and eat them. So we started the morning early. It gets daylight in Ketchikan about 4 o'clock in the morning at that time of year. So we took off going around the little island in front of Ketchikan, and then we were in an open stretch of water, which they call Clarence Strait. And as you see on the map here, it's a long stretch of water that's kind of open with islands on both sides. So the wind likes to funnel through this area during bad storms. But when we left that morning, it was blue skies. The water was glass calm, clear sailing, no problems, right? And it took us a couple hours to get to our destination in these boats. And of course, I was just enjoying all the scenery because it's a beautiful area up there. If you've never been up in Alaska in that back passage, it's beautiful. And we're seeing all kinds of wildlife. We're seeing sea lions, we're seeing porpoises, we've seen killer whales, we've seen humpback whales. And then we got to where we needed to be. My best friend and I were in the same boat, and so we split off to start doing our thing, to start catching bottom fish for bait. And we're doing really good, doing just fine. And then about noontime, when it was about lunchtime to eat, the weather started to turn. We pulled up onto a little island with both of the boats, and the four of us are sitting there eating our lunch. Basically the round sailor crackers, if you know what I'm talking about, with peanut butter and jelly on them. Yeehaw. And making hobo coffee, just a pot, pouring the grounds in there, and we got water from a stream that was running on this island. We built a small fire and started boiling the water and fixing our coffee and having our sailor crackers. And while this is all going on, the water is getting rough. White caps, it's getting scary out there. And Clarence Straits is not the place you want to be, especially in a little aluminum 21-foot boat or a 24-foot boat. There have been big ships that have sunk out in this area. So we just kind of stuck close to that island, fishing around it, checking our lines that we had already dropped because we had to do that, and hoping that this storm would pass and everything would calm down. Well, up in Alaska, at least in Ketchikan, it would get dark about 12 o'clock midnight, and it was probably around 6 or 7, maybe 8-ish at this time. And the waters weren't laying down, and we knew there was no way we were going to be able to cross that open stretch of water and make it back home. So we had to stay overnight on the little island that we were on. No sleeping bags, no nothing. Just the clothes we were wearing and sailor crackers and peanut butter and jelly and coffee. That was it. So we got the boats pulled up on the beach. We're getting everything situated, the fire going. And the skipper's telling my friend and I, go out and collect as much firewood as you can to last the night. I'm like, okay. So as you can see in this photo with us sitting on the beach, all of the logs and stuff. So we started walking around the island, grabbing as much driftwood as we could. And we came back with some armloads, thinking, well, this is going to be plenty. And the skipper's looking at us and he's saying, no, that's not going to be enough. We need a lot more. We need a big pile. And I remember my friend and I looking at each other like, what is going on here? Why do we need so much firewood? And then he explained to us we needed the fire going to keep the bears away. It was at that moment in time that I started thinking, bears, this is not good. We have no weapon other than that fire, and we're stuck on an island with a storm behind us. I remember thinking no good is going to come out of this. So my friend and I were going around getting as much firewood as we possibly could, and we had a big pile. And we got the fire going, and I made sure that my back was to the water, and I was looking at the tree line, because there was no way that a bear was going to sneak up on me, is what I was thinking. And I also remember thinking that if a bear does come in here, I'm running to the boats and I'll go out into the ocean and deal with the rough water than dealing with a bear. So once it got dark, that was when the fun started, because we started hearing noises, and you could hear those bear noises, those grunt noises that they make, and you could see them walking around, or at least the glowing of their eyes from the fire. And I can tell you, God's honest truth, I did not sleep that whole night. I was awake the whole night. So as soon as it got bright enough or light enough to be able to go back out and fish, we did that. And by then, the waters had kind of calmed down. And we still had some skate lines still soaking in the ocean that we had to pull up before we left. So we went ahead and did that. And that's when we made a big killing on halibut. We had a ton of them, plus a 300-pounder. So that day we made all of our money to be able to go buy groceries and to pay off the skipper for the use of his equipment to do this. And by the time we got the skate lines up, dealing with the fish that we had on, plus the 300-pounder, because that one wasn't easy to get into the boat, we proceeded to make it across the Straits, where the wind started to pick up as we were going across. And we ran into whitecaps that were crashing over the nose of the boat. And being that it's a skiff boat, it doesn't have a pointed nose, but it's kind of squared off. And so those waves that were crashing over the nose of the boat kept trying to pull that nose down, and the rivets on the bottom of the boat started to pop out. Now here we are, halfway across. We can't go back, so we just kept going forward. And it was at this time I asked my friend where were the life jackets. And he kind of laughed and he said, Doug, they're not going to help. And I'm thinking, what do you mean they're not going to help? He told me, Doug, the water temperatures are like 36, 38 degrees here. You only have 5 minutes before you die of hypothermia if we fall in the water. And I'm thinking, great. This is just great. So I survived the night with bears on the island, only to die of hypothermia halfway across Clarence Strait. So I break out my knife and I start cutting little chunks of wood off of the oars and whittling them down and sticking them into the holes where the rivets were. And then grabbing the rope that was tied to the nose of the boat and pulling it up to give it bracing so that the waves didn't suck the nose under. And we probably had an hour of this to endure before we got across the straits and into the islands to get out of the wind. Folks, I was never so happy to put my feet on a boat dock ever in my life. And the amount of groceries that we were able to buy off of the money that we had earned for those 2 days of fishing, to me, didn't seem worth it at all. Especially when the ravens got into our food and ate half of it. But I will save that for another fireside chat. Well, we better get going. The fire's burning out, and hey, we don't want any bears coming in, right? I hope you enjoyed this, and have a great day, and we will talk later.